Hello everyone, good afternoon and welcome to this new module of our subject of Indian Constitution. So in the last class we had talked about the module 1 and we have talked about the fundamental rights, we had talked about the fundamental duties. Okay, so in this class we will study with the system of the government, how our government functions. So functions and all the functionalities of how the administration is being run. So that will be covered in this particular module. So before going into this module, I had already shared the assignments for the second assignment I have already shared. Okay, so in the second assignment there are certain questions, and those questions, if we talk about these kind of questions, you will be facing in your semester examinations or your internal examinations. So all these things will be covered. All these type of questions from the first module can be expected. Okay. Okay, just a minute. So I think there is no issue with the connectivity. So there is no issue with the connectivity. Okay, so I thought there was an issue with the connectivity. So now it is being resolved. Okay, anyways, so the questions you will be needing to write down the answers in as it has been already mentioned in the assignment. So those kind of questions you have to practice. I have already shared the textbook in PDF format so that you can go through them. Okay, and the corresponding notes for the same will be also provided from time to time. Okay, so let's move on to with this this particular module. Okay, I'm just taking down the pen so that I can do with the underlines on. Okay, so in this module, what we will be studying, we will study about the union government. We will study about the structure of the union, Indian Union. We will study about the president. We will talk about the Prime Minister and the councils of ministers. We will talk about the Lok Sabha, the Rajya Sabha, the state government, and if we are talking about the state government, we will also study about the state secretariat. We will study about the chief minister, and we will study about the governor. So Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, these two are in the center. And if we talk about the state secretariat, we have Vidhan Sabha. Okay, so we have over here Vidhan Sabha and Vidhan Parishad. So we will all study about these in our upcoming consecutive lectures. Okay, so we will talk about them in details slowly. Okay, one by one. So today we will be covering the union government, the structure of the Indian Union, and we will start, if time permits, we will start with the President of India today. Okay, so let's move on. So now we will talk about the structure. So if we talk about the structure of the union government, we follow the parliamentary form of government. So if we are talking about the parliamentary form, so that means we have a parliament from where the government runs. So if we talk about the parliamentary form of government, it is being given in the Article 74 and Article number 75. The provisions for the parliamentary government are written in Article number 74 and 75, and it is for center. And if we talk about the state, it is being mentioned in Article number 163 and Article number 164. So if we talk about Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, it is Article number 74 and 75. And if we are talking about Vidhan Sabha and Vidhan Parishad, so it is Article number 163 and Article number 164. Okay. So if we are talking about the modern democratic governments around the world, so it is classified in two forms. One is the parliamentary form and one is the presidential form. But if we are talking about the India's part, we have a parliamentary form, and it is the form in which we have a cabinet government, or it is also known as the responsible government, and the model's name is Westminster model. And if we are talking about the Westminster model of government, it was prevalent for the first time in Britain. So Britain, if we talk about, it is a country which started the parliamentary form of government for the first time. And later on, they were replicated in the Japan, Canada, yes, and of course, India. And if we talk about the presidential form of government, it is partly non-responsible, and it does not have any parliament or a fixed executive system. So we will talk about them when we will study about the president and what are their powers. And if we talk about the presidential form of government, I will just give you an example how the government of USA is being functioned. So yes, the presidential form of government, it is prevalent in USA, Brazil, Russia, Sri Lanka, our neighbor, okay, and there are many other countries where we follow the presidential form of government. But for India, it is the parliamentary form of government, not the presidential form of government. We have a cabinet ministry, we have the prime minister as the head of the government, okay. So we will talk about them in details, but before that, we must know what is a parliament. If we define parliament in a very simple language, it is common all over the world, and the English parliament can be said to be the mother of all parliaments. But if we are to look into the literal meaning of the parliament, it is defined as the government by talk. More precisely, control of the government by talk. That means there are a lot of discussions, there are a lot of debates going on in the parliament so that the government can function in a better manner. So in this picture you can see it is a model of the Parliament of Britain. Okay, so how the Parliament of Britain started, you can see it is very, very different from the Parliament which we have in our country. And the reason is because we have a lot of members, and India being a very big country, so in order to accommodate all the members of the Parliament, we need a bigger structure. But as a matter of fact, the seats in the Parliament are limited. And now, as slowly and slowly, the population is on the rise and the representatives are also on the rise, we need a larger room or large parliament, and that is the reason why a newer parliament building is being made, and probably it will be under function very soon the moment our seats in the parliament increases. Okay, so this is a place where the people, means we the people, our voice, if it has to be heard in the government, then who does it? The members elected from our community or our electoral college, or if we are talking about the person who is being elected by us, the members of the parliament, they are taking our voice to the parliament, and then there are debates on it and how to counter or how to make certain changes, or there are certain legislatures or some executive laws to be made that is being done in the parliament. Let us say a particular region, a very backward region, they require railway lines or they require a hospital, and the administration is not taking care of the demand of the people for a long time. Then what will happen? Then the members of the parliament of that particular area will take up the issue in the parliament, and based on that, certain provisions can be made. We will talk about all these things in details when we talk about the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha when we will cover that part. Okay. So if we talk about in the United Kingdom, how the parliament is being comprised of. The parliament comprises of the king, the House of the Lords, and the House of the Common. Okay, so there is a king. A king is a different entity, and he is being assisted by the House of the Lords, and there is a House of the Common. Okay, so there is a House of the Common. And how this system is being replicated in our country. The person corresponding to the king is the president. If we talk about, yes, he is the president. If we talk about House of the Lords, if we talk about the Lords, means they are higher people. So that means our Rajya Sabha, because Rajya Sabha is the upper house of our parliament. And if we talk about the House of the Common, in India, it is the Lok Sabha, that is the lower house. So it is the common people who are being elected directly by the people, represents over there, and that is in the Lok Sabha. Whereas Rajya Sabha, the members are elected but not directly by the people. We will talk about how a person can be elected in Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha in our later lectures. Okay. So now, as we move on slowly, let's talk about the features of the Indian parliamentary government. Okay. So if we are talking about the features, the first feature is it is a nominal and real executive. Nominal and real executive means what? If we talk about the president, he is the nominal executive, and if we talk about the prime minister, he is the real executive. Now, you must be wondering that what is the nominal and what is the real? If we talk about being a nominal head or nominal executive head, that means he has got the power but not all the powers. Whereas the prime minister, he has got the real power, because a prime minister is the head of the state. He is the head of the government, whereas the president, he is the head of the state. Means, if we talk about the president, he is the head of the Indian Union. But if we talk about prime minister, he is the head of the government. He is not the head of the country. Okay, so president is the head. He is also known as the first citizen of our country. But prime minister, he cannot be said as the first citizen of the country. Okay, not even the second citizen. Okay, and prime minister heads the government, whereas president heads the people of the state. Means the king. Just I said in the last slide, you see the king. Here I have already mentioned. So king is the president, whereas the prime minister is the head of the government, not the head of the state. Now, if we talk about what are the powers, how president can be the head of the state and not have much power? We will talk about them in our president chapter. But just to make you understand, there is an article number 74. Article number 74. Okay, so article number 74 says that the councils of minister, that means we are talking about the cabinet ministers, which comprises of whom? Maybe the finance minister, the defense minister, the education minister. All these ministers form the cabinet. Foreign minister is also included. Ministers of HR, Ministry of Human Resource. So these are the ministers who, along with the prime minister, what they do, they advise the president. Okay, they advise the president so that he can exercise his functions. For any laws to be passed, the president has to give his assent so that it can become the law or become the act. Okay, so now we will talk about second part, that is the majority party rule. Yes, you know it very well because you might be seeing how the government is being functioned. The political party which secures the majority of the seats in the Lok Sabha, they form the government. Like now, we have the political party of BJP, Bharatiya Janata Party, which is being headed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He has got the absolute majority. He has crossed the magical figure of the majority, and he actually to stake the claim so that he can form the government, and he cannot be challenged because the number matters. The political party having the most number of seats, they form the government. Okay, and the leader of the party, like we have Narendra Modi, the leader of the BJP party, he is being appointed as the prime minister by the president. Now you must have seen the oath taking ceremony of Narendra Modi last year. Many of you might have seen it. You have seen that during the oath taking ceremony, it was president who was administering the oath ceremonies. And for all the cabinet ministers, it was the president who appoints them on the advice of prime minister. Okay, the other ministers, it is the prime minister who nominates them, and it is president who appoints them after having their oath taken. Okay, but now there is another thing which is known as the coalition. Let us say, like during the time when Manmohan Singh was the prime minister of India. Okay, so what happened during that time? The UPA, that is UPA government, was headed by Manmohan Singh, but it was actually the Congress party who had the majority in the coalition. They may not have got the absolute number, but with their supporters of the other parties or other MPs, they had formed the government. Today, yes, even BJP has got their coalition partners in the government. But as BJP, as a single majority party, they could have only given the posts of the ministers to their party members. But no, they had their supporters, so they thought of giving them also certain ministerial berths. So now you see, basically what happens is, the party, a single party, let us say a party X, they have secured the magical figure, and they have formed they can form the government even nobody supports them, because they have the number and it is the people's mandate which matters. So this is what about our majority party rule. Okay. Next, if we talk about the collective responsibility. So collective responsibility means if the government is successful, it is not because of the prime minister, but because of everyone in the parliament. Okay, and if we talk about collective responsibility, it is basically the bedrock principle of our government. They will function as a team. If somebody fails, the whole party fails. If we talk about BJP itself, if now suppose BJP does not have the exact numbers to prove their majority, and their coalition partners also are not supporting them, then what will happen? They sink together. The whole of everyone in that particular government, they can be removed. They actually cease to exist, function as a government. And if they have the numbers, they go on together. The Lok Sabha can remove a ministry or the council of ministers headed by Prime Minister from office by passing a vote of no confidence. That means it happened quite a few number of times, but means in our recent memory, it happened in the year of 1998. Okay, 1998, when again it was the BJP government. It was actually NDA government headed by our ex-prime minister, late Atal Bihari Vajpayee. He actually held office for 13 days, and then what happened? The government failed to get the confidence of the members sitting in the parliament. They could not get the exact number. They could not achieve the majority figure by just 4 votes, and the government fell. So this is what happens, and this is how the vote of no confidence is being passed. Even this happens in the Vidhan Sabha as well. Recently, you must have heard there was a political situation, a political instability in Rajasthan, and there was a floor test which the CM Ashok Gehlot passed because he had the numbers. The floor test was there so that to see who are with the government and who are against the government. And similarly, few months back, similar thing happened in Madhya Pradesh, where we saw that the Congress government was toppled because they suddenly, when they formed the government, they had the numbers, but suddenly few people, a few MLAs did not support Congress and they supported BJP, and BJP came in power. So this is what happens if somebody, and this is what happens, and this is what the no confidence of motion is means. We will talk about no confidence motion when we study about Lok Sabha again. Okay. Now, if we talk about the political homogeneity, the members of the councils of ministers belong to the same political party. Yes, they basically, if we talk about the ministers, they are from the same political party so that they can share same political ideologies. And even during the coalition government, the ministers are bound by consensus, meaning they can support their political ideology, and if sometimes any minister thinks from the other coalition partner, they think that no, this is not my ideology and I don't support it, then he exits the government, and again there is a number game, whether if exiting of that particular party or the coalition partner will affect the majority of the ruling government. Again, the same, the vote of no confidence can be seen, or the numbers can be seen. Okay, so we are talking about next part, the double membership. So if we talk about the double membership, the ministers are the member of both legislature and executive. What is legislature and executive? Basically, what is this? A person cannot be a minister without being a member of the parliament. That means if any person is being appointed as a minister, he or she has to be the member of the parliament. But there are certain cases when a person is being appointed as a minister, but that person does not hold house of the parliament, whether it is Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. And the most recent example can be seen in the form of our present foreign minister S. Jaishankar. When S. Jaishankar was given the post of the foreign minister, he was not the member of any either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. So, in order to stay as a minister, he had to get himself elected. And what was done? He was given a seat in Rajya Sabha. And as a member of Rajya Sabha, he became the minister. He continued to become the minister. Okay. So if we are talking about this thing, that means if anybody wants to, in a crux I am just repeating once again, if anybody wants to be a minister, he has to be a member of the parliament. Okay. Any house of the parliament will do. Okay. So I think I have made myself clear. So I am moving on to the next part. Leadership of Prime Minister. So if we are talking about leadership of Prime Minister, the Prime Minister basically plays a very important role in this particular system because he is the head of the government and it is he who controls the government, controls his minister, and controls the administration of the country. Ministers are there, but they are, all other ministers are there, but they are responsible to the prime minister. I talked about the hierarchical form. There are certain hierarchies. So prime minister sits on the top of our government. So prime minister sits on the top of the government, followed by the councils of minister. Followed by the councils of minister. So it is all about the leadership of the prime minister, because the prime minister is the head of the government. Dissolution of lower house. What does this mean? Lower house means Lok Sabha, and it can be dissolved by president on recommendation of prime minister. And when does it happen? It happens during the time of elections, or during the time when elections are being called and prime minister says that okay, we are ready for elections and the parliament can be dissolved and a new parliament or the new Lok Sabha session will start with the new government. So this is about the dissolution of the Lok Sabha or dissolution of the lower house. Rajya Sabha, it is never dissolved. Rajya Sabha is never gets dissolved. It is Lok Sabha which always gets dissolved with the maximum period of functioning is 5 years. Okay. Next, if we talk about secrecy, yes, the ministers operate in certain secret procedures and they cannot divulge the information regarding the proceedings of the government to anyone, because it is a matter of national interest and they are functioning on the interest of the nation. So if sometimes it happens that if they leak out certain informations, it might be detrimental for the government and as well as for the people of the country, and it may sometimes happen that certain sensitive information gets leaked and there are certain problems created within the country itself. So these secrecy should be maintained. Okay. So now let's discuss about the presidential government, and as I said, we are talking about whom? Yes, I think you can recognize this person, Donald Trump. That is the president of USA. So we will talk about Mr. Trump and we will talk about how these are being done. Basically means if we talk about the presidential government of USA. So yes, president is the head of both the state and as well as he is also the head of the government. Just like in India, we have the president as the head of the state, but it is prime minister who is the head of the government. But if we talk about the president of USA, he is both the head of the state as well as the head of the government. Okay. Next, the president is elected by an electoral college for a fixed tenure of 5 years. Electoral college means representatives. Representatives are the votes of the representatives of the people are being counted for the election of the president, and he cannot be removed by the Congress except impeachment for grave unconstitutional act. Like in India, the government can fall if they don't have the number, but a president of USA cannot say that okay, I don't have the number, so I have ceased to perform as a president, as in the capacity of president. No, even if he thinks that he does not have the number, he can still continue to be the president unless and until there is an impeachment. Unless and until there is an impeachment, that means the president is being removed by the Congress on the advice of the federal court. Now, like we have a cabinet ministry, it can be small, it can be a large, but the president of USA, they have a small cabinet, a smaller body, which is known as the kitchen cabinet. Okay, it sounds funny, but actually kitchen cabinet, if you go to your kitchen and you have a cabinet over there, and similarly if you compare it with the cabinet of your living room, you will be seeing that there is a difference. The cabinet in your living room or your bedroom is larger in comparison to the cabinet in kitchen. So it is basically only the essential items are kept in your kitchen, not everything. Similarly, essential persons for essential advisory bodies, they can be placed in kitchen cabinets. And unlike in India, the ministers who has to be elected by the people, or he has to be a member of the parliament, it is not necessary in this particular country of USA. The advisory committee, they are being appointed by the president himself. President whom he trusts can only be the part of the kitchen cabinet. Okay, so there is a separation of powers in American presidential system. The legislative, the executive, and the judicial are separated and vested in 3 different organs of the government. So they have a different government. There are certain people who take care of the government, but it is always Mr. Trump who is at the head of the government. If he says yes, the government also does the thing, that correct thing, whatever he has asked to do. Okay, so this is about the presidential form of government of USA, and you can understand what are the differences between the India's parliamentary form of government and USA's presidential form of government. Okay, so let's move on to the next part. But before that, before we go into this particular thing, I would just like to say certain things which are actually the merits and the demerits of this particular system. So if you're talking about the merits of our own parliamentary system, so before going into the reasons why we have adopted the parliamentary systems, let us discuss about the merits and demerits of this particular thing. So now you see, there is a harmony between the legislature and the executive. That means the legislature who forms the laws, and those who make certain policies, they don't fight amongst each other. It is a very responsible government. As I said, in this particular slide, you see, remember in the slide, where it is, yes, if we are talking about this parliamentary form of government, I have already said that it is a responsible government. And that is the reason why, as it is responsible to the people, and the ministers are responsible to the parliament, and the government is responsible to the people. And there are certain fixed period of time where the question and answer sessions are being answered or being listened to. You must have heard about the 0 hour. You must have heard about the discussion hour. Sometimes there are adjournment of the parliament. All these terms which you have heard in your till date without knowing the meaning, we will discuss about these things. And it can be said that this parliamentary form of government has a very wide range of government. A wider range is there, and it consists of large individual groups, and it represents the various nooks and corners of our country, and they represents various culture. Okay, so now as we talk about why we have adopted this particular system, yes, we were familiar with the system. In our first module, I had talked about the British rule in India, and the British Parliament was the place from where we have learned a lot for administrative purpose. So we are familiar with the system, so we did not want to change the system which we are not familiar with. So that is the reason why we have adopted this parliamentary form of government. Yes, in the presidential form of government, we don't have much responsibility, but it has got more power. But in India's context, we thought of having more responsibility than more power for the government. If we talk about the India's nature, the society's nature of India, it is one of the most heterogeneous state. You see, we have from Kashmir and then we have a Kanyakumari, and if we talk about Arunachal Pradesh and we talk about Gujarat, from all these corners, if you see, every place or every region has got some certain diversities, and for this diversity we are very diverse, we have a very complex society, and that is the reason, that is the more reason we have this parliamentary system. Because if we had presidential form of government, then the more power was vested upon the government, less responsibility was there, and there might have been certain issue regarding the regarding decision making, the law making, which may be prevalent for the North India but not prevalent for the Western India, or maybe if we are concerned about the northeastern part, there might be certain problems in our southern part. So all these things, in order to promote the spirit of unity among the people, the lawmakers adopted the parliamentary system. Okay. So before going into this, let us also discuss about the demerits of the parliamentary system. We discussed about the what? We discussed about the merits, but demerit, if it's a coalition government, it might also lead to an instability if nobody has the number. Maybe the parliament is divided into 3 or 4 factions and not a single faction is having the number to prove. So then there is a deadlock situation, and again we have to go under the rigorous process of election. Okay. Next, and it was prevalent. India faced this kind of situation quite a number of times. Like when Morarji Desai led the Janta government, the government could not complete full tenure of 5 years. Then we have got I.K. Gujral, then we had H.D. Devegowda. Means similarly, if we talk about from the year of 1996 till 1999, 1996 to 1999, we did not have a stable government in the center. Okay, we did not have this stable government in the center from 1996 to 1999, and we had around 3 or 4 prime ministers changed in that period of time. We had Atal Bihari Vajpayee's government toppled in the year of 1996. Then there was a very uncanny situation. Then what happened? H.D. Devegowda took up. Even H.D. Devegowda's government could not fulfill the commitment or did not have the numbers after few days. Then Inder Kumar Gujral became the prime minister, and he also failed to function in a full government. Then again Atal Bihari Vajpayee came into power, and that government ran for 13 months, and again they ran out of numbers. Then after that, the NDA government continued a full 5 years after 3 years of gap. Since 1996, we did not had a government till 1999, and from 1999 to 2004, we had finally a stable government. Okay, so this is one of the most problematic area of a parliamentary form of government. Then, like in UPA government, we had certain rules and regulations and policies which were discontinued by the NDA government which came into power. So that is also another problem. That is another problem of this parliamentary form of government. Okay, so this is all about things, and at times it happens that a person who does not have any experience in administration suddenly finds himself or herself in the seat of power, and that is a time when he became an amateur, and that is another problem of this parliamentary form of government. Okay, so now let's talk about the union executive, which comprises from article number 52 to article number 78. Okay, so if you're talking about the union executive, who are the members of the union executive? It is being president, there is a vice president, there is a council of ministers headed by the prime minister, but there is another 4th organ of the union executive as well, which is known as Attorney General. Okay, Attorney General of India, he is also a part of the union executive, and if we are talking about the Attorney General, it is K.K. Venugopal at present. You can you can Google about him, about the Attorney General of India, K.K. Venugopal, and we will talk about Attorney General of India in details as well. Okay, so now let's talk about the president. If we talk about the president, as I already have mentioned, he is the head of the Indian state. And under Constitution of India, Article 52, it is a mandatory procedure, it is a mandatory post, and that India should have a president. He is the first citizen of India and acts as the symbol of unity, integrity, and solidarity of the nation. Similarly to that of a king, because king used to be the symbol of unity, integrity, and solidarity. The people loved in past, there were certain kings whom people loved, and whole country used to rally behind the king because he is such a benevolent ruler. And similarly, India also has a king, but it is in the form of a president. Now the elections, how a president is being elected. He is not directly elected by the people, but the member of electoral colleges. And who are the members of the electoral colleges? The elected members of both the houses of parliament, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. That means all the members of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha are the members of the electoral college. Then elected members of the legislative assemblies of the states. There are 29 states, and all the states legislative assembly members or MLAs, they are also has the right to vote for the President of India, and they also comprises the electoral college. Next, the elected members of legislative assemblies of Delhi and Puducherry, because Delhi and Pondicherry or Puducherry, they have legislative assemblies. Now, after the formation of the state of Jammu and Kashmir, after the dissolution of this particular place of Jammu and Kashmir, now we have got two different UTs of Jammu and Kashmir, and it has been said that this particular union territories will have legislative assemblies. But as of now, till date, the present situation is not clear about these two states. So, when the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir will have a legislative assembly, they might also be included. In fact, they will be included to be the members of the elected members, which will be comprising the electoral college. Okay. So now we have got not 20. So I said about 29 states. So now actually we have 28 states, and Union territories have increased. Now, there are certain members in Rajya Sabha as well as in Lok Sabha who are nominated by the president. They don't fight elections. They don't come to the election. They don't come to the houses after getting themselves elected. So, this what happens is they do not participate in the election procedure of the president. So, there are certain people from certain backgrounds who get special representation or special membership in the Rajya Sabha or the Lok Sabha. You may have heard about the great cricketer Sachin Tendulkar. Sachin Tendulkar was a member of Rajya Sabha, but he was not the elected member of the Rajya Sabha, but he was a nominated member. So, during the time of the election of the president, Sachin Tendulkar was not allowed to vote for the election of the president. Okay. So you see, these are the presidents of India till date, followed by Dr. Rajendra Prasad, then Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, Zakir Hussain, Varahagiri Venkatagiri or VV Giri, Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed, Neelam Sanjeeva Reddy, Gyani Zail Singh, R. Venkataraman, Shankar Dayal Sharma, K.R. Narayanan, then APJ Abdul Kalam, Pratibha Devi Singh Patil, the only female, the first and the only till now female president of our nation. Then Pranab Mukherjee, and at present it is Ramnath Kovind who is the present president. So there is a very old and famous couplet, or you can say it is in Hindi basically, to how to remember the names of our president till K.R. Narayanan, because APJ Abdul Kalam, Pratibha Devi Singh Patil, Pranab Mukherjee and Ramnath Kovind, these are from our recent memories, so you will be knowing these names. So there is a trick to remember. Raja Sarvada. So see, Raja from Rajendra Prasad. सर्वदा जानते थे कि भिक्षु या फकीर के नीले जामे के भीतर शंख नारायण का वास है. आई एम रिपीटिंग इट. राजा सर्वदा जानते थे कि भिक्षु या फकीर के नीले जामे के भीतर शंख नारायण का वास है. So this is something which is an acronym to remember from the first president till our K.R. Narayanan, how to remember these names. Okay. So I will give this trick when I will be sharing it in your Google Classroom as well. Okay. So next we talk about certain FAQs about president, frequently asked question. So first question comes, what is the term of the office of the president? Yes, president holds the office for a period of 5 years. From the day he enters upon his office, the day he gets inside his office, he holds the office for a period of 5 years. Okay? And even after the expiration, until his successor enters upon the office, he can hold upon the post of the president. And it is being mentioned in the Article 56 of our Constitution. Next, who conducts the election to the office of president? Under Article 324, the authority to conduct the election of the president is being vested upon the Election Commission of India. ECI. Yes, the same election commission who also conducts the voting for the Lok Sabha as well as the Rajya Sabha elections. Okay, what electoral system or the process is followed for the election to the office of the president? Yes, under Article 55 Part 3, under Article 55 Subsection 3, it is said that the election of the president shall be held in the system of proportional representation and by the means of single transferable vote, and the voting will be done by secret ballot. Now there are two terms which you may be interested in: proportional representation and single transferable vote. Proportional representation, yes, I will be discussing this proportional representation in my next slide or in the next class if time permits. The next slide basically, when I will talk about the election of the president. So you can just wait for some time. And single transferable vote, that also I will be explaining in then I will talk about the election of the president, because the election of the president is very, very different from the election of the prime minister. Okay, now how the nomination of a candidate for the election to the office of president is determined. Basically, who can say that I am going to be the candidate for a president? So if I want to run for the presidential elections, then what I have to do? I will be filing a nomination, and 50 people, 50 electors has to be saying that, okay, this person, yes, he has the capability to become the president of our country. And another 50% will second it. Okay, yes, I agree, because I am telling you, suppose there are two candidates, candidate A and candidate B. Okay, so there are two candidates, and let us say candidate C is also here. And total number of members in the parliament, let us say around they have got around 130. Okay, 130 are the total people who will be saying that who can be the president of our country, or whether he or she can run for the presidential elections. Let us say candidate A has got 60 people supporting them so that the candidate A can become the president or run for the presidential election. Candidate B has got around 55 people supporting to be the president. Okay, yes, he is a good candidate to become the president. And candidate C, how many is left? 60 plus 55 is 150. So he got 15 people support that he can run for the presidential election. So automatically candidate C's candidature gets invalid because he did not have the number. He did not have the number to prove that whether he is a good candidate or not. But now, whether candidate A and candidate B can run for the presidential election. Well, now from this particular, just a minute, what happened? Now, from the people who supported candidate A, let us say from out of 60 candidates, 52 candidates also say that B is also a deserving candidate. Okay, 52 people say B is also a deserving candidate. Hence, now you see, 55 people have said that okay, B is a good candidate, and the people who have voted for or wanted A to be their candidate, they also say that okay, B is also a genuine candidate. That means B can become the person who will run for presidential election. But A has got 60 people who have given their support. But second means from out of 55 and 15 people, only 33 persons say that okay, A is a good candidate. Now he has passed the first criteria. He has got 50 candidates, but nobody seconded him. Not more than 50 electors did not seconded him. So A's candidature is also getting cancelled, although he had the majority in number in the first place. So a person has to get minimum of 50 supports and 50, next 50 who has already, from those people who had other candidates as their first preference. So second preference and first preference count both has to be 50, then only the person can run for the presidential election. Okay. Next, does the candidate has to give any security for the elections? Yes, every candidate has to make a security deposit of 15,000 in Reserve Bank of India, and if he fails to secure 1/6 of the total votes casted, he loses his security deposit. Yes, he loses his security deposit because of this. But if he gets 1/6, then he is liable to get back the money which he has deposited. So what is the salary of president? The salary of president is 5 lakh per month. Yes, quite a big amount, you can see. Well, prior to 2018, it was only 1.5 lakh, but now it has been raised to rupees 5 lakh. So what are the qualifications to be the president? He must be the citizen of India, must have completed 35 years of age, and must be eligible to become the members of Lok Sabha, although he may or may not be the member of Lok Sabha. Should not be holding any office of profit under Government of India, government of any state, or any private authority. Okay, that means if he is doing a job under government or state government, he has to resign from that particular post, and then only he can run for the presidential elections. Okay, so today I will be stopping over here, and in the next class we will talk about the election procedure of the president. Okay, so thank you people, thank you, and also go to your Google Classroom, look for the assignments. I am again repeating, look for the assignments and do that, solve those questions, because those are kind of the questions which you will be expecting in your semester examinations. Okay, so thank you guys, and have a great day, and stay safe. Okay, thank you.